Welcome to a special edition of Torrance Today. I'm Christine Lee. It's 4 p.m. on Thursday, May 26th. Thank you so much for joining us. We're dedicating today's show to the lives lost in Texas. Our hearts ache thinking about the 9 and 10-year-olds, along with their teachers who tragically lost their lives when a gunman opened fire on their campus at Robb Elementary School, which is located in Uvalde, Texas, about an hour and a half west of San Antonio. As many of us are still trying to make sense of what happened, I touched base with our school district and our police department to see how they're doing and what messages they have for our community during this very difficult time. But first, let's briefly recap what we know so far about what happened on Tuesday. 19 students and 2 teachers were killed in what is now being called the deadliest school shooting in Texas state history. It is difficult to see their innocent faces. They were all in the same 4th grade class, kids again who were just 9 and 10 years old. Some students in the class were miraculously able to survive and say they were just watching a movie after PE class when the gunman attacked. The director of the Texas Department of Public Safety, Stephen McCraw, says the 18-year-old suspect entered through an unlocked door and was on the premises for up to an hour before law enforcement forcibly entered a classroom and killed him. The senseless shooting left many of us fearing for our safety, especially in school settings. This morning, I visited the Torrance Unified School District and met with Superintendent Dr. Tim Stowe. We talked about many things, including school safety, resources available for children and adults, and how this tragedy affects him as an educator who grew up in the Torrance school system.
So yesterday I heard an interview from the superintendent in Uvalde, and he grew up there. He went to those schools. He worked in that district for 30 years, and I couldn't help but think of myself. I grew up here. I went to school here, and I've worked here almost 30 years, and just been blessed to be part of this community. My children have gone through and are currently in Torrance schools, and so for me this is personal. To make sure that we have the safety measures in place, that we have the support of the community, and that all of our staff, students, parents, and other stakeholders are focused on what is right for kids. I think when any event occurs in a place that we're familiar with, whether it's a school or a supermarket or a movie theater, and there's a tragic event, that we all kind of reflect. Human nature, I think, is we think that could have been us, especially with the school, with what happened, and our thoughts and prayers are with our educator family and the whole community at Robb Elementary School. We want to make sure that we are talking to our students and our staff and our families about the safety measures that we've put in place here in TUSD over the course of the last number of years, and how we view school safety as a whole. On the day of the tragedy, we immediately got something out to our families to let them know that we are aware of it and reassured them. The following day, we sent a message to all of our staff, just reminding them of all the procedures and processes and things that we have in place for school safety, and that we're always listening. We need to remember that we're in the business of people, and whether that's children or adults, and there are a lot of variables there. And so we're taking measures to put things in place and reinforce the importance of mental health, and see something, say something, and all of the kinds of human factors that we really want to make sure people feel safe. We want every student to have a trusted adult on campus that they can speak to in the event they're not feeling well, or they're worried about harm to themselves or others. And so we really try to nurture an environment in our schools where that we want to be for ourselves and our children. Beginning last year with some pandemic relief funds, we put in place therapists at all of our high schools and middle schools. We increased counseling, and those are specifically because we knew that students were going to have some mental health challenges coming out of the pandemic, coming back to school. And fortunately, we have many new systems in place as a result of that we're taking advantage of. We also want to make sure that we're connected to resources in the community. So we offer a number of things through different community agencies and are able to connect families with different community agencies and support systems. On our website, we've got lots of information and resources for parents. One particular, Care Solace, is a company that we have contracted with for a number of years that, again, finds vetted resources that parents can utilize for their children. Part of the school bond measure T that was passed by voters in 2014 was around safety and security. And so beginning 8 years ago, we started putting in very strategic systems. So we put in new fencing, perimeter fencing at all of our schools. We've installed over 1,600 video cameras that are recording 24 hours a day at our schools. We have single point of entry. So during the school day, any visitor to campus must come through the office. It's a buzzer system. They get buzzed in. And then if they're a visitor on campus and they stay, we use a screening system that screens any visitor against national databases. And so those are just some of the things that we put in place thanks to local voters and the bond dollars for Measure T. In addition, we're in the middle of a install for a school-wide paging system, both internal and external, as well as digital clocks with scrolling message boards in each classroom. Our partnership with the Torrance Police goes back decades, and I remember after Columbine, we have done active shooter training on our campuses with school staff. They have detailed plans of all of our campuses. They have access to our camera systems in the event of emergency. And Chief Jay Hart has been an international expert and trainer on events such as active shooters. And so, having him as chief, I know that he's going to work with us very closely to continue to refine our plans. In addition, we work with Torrance Fire on response to events on campus. With over 22,000 students, we rely on each of them to take responsibility and ownership over the safety of our schools. In addition, we have many more parents and other community members. And so it really does take all of us working together to make sure that we're protecting, and if we see something, we need to bring it to someone's attention. We work with an organization, Sandy Hook Promise, and through Sandy Hook Promise, we have an anonymous reporting system where students or families can anonymously report any threat to campus or an individual that immediately gets flagged and looked into. And so, it's not just that system, but like I've said, we want to make sure that every student has at least one, if not multiple, trusted adults on campus that they can come forward to. And it happens. It happens. And for those students that step up and have the courage to be able to let someone know, even if it's something that turns out to be non-credible, that's okay, because we really need to make sure that everybody has their eyes and ears open, and we're all thinking about safety first for our students. Yeah. To our parents, I would just say that we're doing everything that we can to ensure the safety of your children. If you have any questions whatsoever, please reach out to your school principal, your teachers, because they're the ones that are directly there with your child every day, and we have their best interest in mind. And so I would like to also just thank you for the support that you've offered for the last many years, but in particular the last couple of years for sending your children to our schools and trusting that we are helping them along their path to success. I've been here my whole life, that we're all in for making sure that this is the safest, and that our children in particular are protected and they can learn in an environment that's free from harm.
Thank you, Dr. Stowe, for your time today. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, you can hear from our Torrance Police Department on how they've strengthened their partnership with our local schools to increase security and continue to protect our community. We'll be back in 60 seconds.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you prevent wildfires.
Dude, I've got this. I've been camping since I was 5 years old.
But I
am a camping influencer.
You know what? I'll bet you $5. Okay. Assistant Smokey, what is the best way to put out a campfire?
To put out a campfire, drown with water, stir, drown again. Then make sure the fire is out cold by feeling with the back of your hand.
Wait, really?
I'll take the $5.
If I could go back and change it all, I would. I think I'm gonna miss you the most. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Or maybe it's just the little moments. If I could go back and change it all, if I could go back, I would. But I can't.
Soon after the shootings took place in Texas, Torrance Police Chief Jeremiah Hart issued a heartfelt memo to TUSD extending support in any way the department can. This morning, I stopped by the police station and spoke with Sergeant Mark Pongelic, who shares how more officers were on campus protecting our kids this week, how one of our schools recently received a threat, and how the police department handled that threat immediately. He also wants to remind everyone about the importance of speaking up if they hear anything suspicious.
So one of the things as a police department we need to address is not only crime, but also the fear of crime. So when you have such a tragic event like the one that happened at Robb Elementary in Texas, there's a lot of concerns from the community, and we need to address those concerns and those fears. Chief Hart reached out to the superintendent of the Torrance Unified School District, advising him this is what our plan is. We will be more visible and present, and again, creating more dialogue with the Torrance Unified School District staff so they can get that information out to all the schools. So you will see an increased presence at the schools. Having detectives go out and just be present, show the community that, hey, we're here for you if you need us. Please keep us in mind, keep talking to us. Again, just strengthening that relationship and just kind of trying to calm some of those fears. We've hit every school in Torrance over the last 20 years, talking about active threat education tools so they can prepare their emergency plan and also deal with those types of threats and just strengthen that partnership over the years. I think the biggest thing when you're dealing with these stressful and tragic events is preparing before, having those discussions, coming up with plans to kind of deal with that if it does, so that way we can be better prepared. And then the other part of this that we're really trying to get across is we've talked about see something, say something since 9/11. That was the big part. 2.0 of that is if you hear something, say something, because a lot of times with these events, people will hear about people, maybe suspects make certain comments, but they're not telling anybody, they're not getting anybody involved. And then when the investigation starts coming together, you realize there was a whole lot of people that had different pieces of information and none of them were talking to each other, and neither did they reach out to the police departments with that information. And so really the communication part is going to be a big factor, and that's what we're trying to do. We have actually received threats recently, just came up, where we did get contacted by a individual saying, hey, they heard about a kid wanting to bring a firearm to school. And we immediately kicked in our detectives division along with patrol and our intelligence section to start investigating that. We were able to quickly identify who that person is and find out that that threat is not credible. Now, anytime we're dealing with these types of threats, we take them very seriously, and that does kick off an all hands on deck to start investigating that right away, because children are our most important asset, something that we hold dear to our hearts, so it's important that we protect them as well as the school staff that are there. One of the great things is how strong the relationship is between the police department and the community. Hey, public safety is one of the number one priorities we also enjoy, and that's the reason why people come and live in Torrance and have their kids go to school in Torrance, is because of public safety. So that is actually going to be a critical part coming up very soon with the vote.
Thank you, Sergeant Pongelic, for taking the time to talk to us as well. Well, that's our show for today. As always, please email us at torrancetoday@torranceca.gov if there is a story you'd like to share. And as both Dr. Stowe and Sergeant Pongelic said, reach out if you need help. And if you see or hear something, say something. We're all in this together, and your support means so much to everyone around you. Thank you for joining us. Have a restful Memorial Day weekend, and we'll see you back here on Monday with more news from and for our Torrance community. Have a good day.